Hey everyone, my name's Martin. For those that are new here, I'm waving my inhaler about. Don't know why I'm doing that. And for those that aren't, you obviously know that I'm Martin. Weirdest intro I've ever done. Let's move on. The thing I want to talk about today is to kick off the month where I'm going to be focusing a lot of my time on influence, heroes, role models. And I've mentioned before this idea of influence, right? And if you have a consciousness as to who influences you, if you specifically pick people that are like, yes, I want those as my heroes, I want those people, the people I'm going to admire, I'm going to take a look at their value systems and try and behave in a way that models their values. And it doesn't have to be accurate, and it doesn't have to be just one person. It could be like different values from several different people. But the key is adding a consciousness to those values. Otherwise, you end up being targeted, right? Algorithms are an incredibly dangerous thing. And you'll be targeted based on people like you also watched this, which could be anything. So if you don't have a consciousness of what type of thing you want to be drawn towards, you're going to be drawn towards things that you're not in control of. And when we think about, and like I'm going to do an exercise for myself where I'm actually going to start having a think about, I'm going to pick like 5 people I'm going to have my heroes, they're my 2021 heroes. And I'm going to have a look at their values and their behavior and try to model that in various different areas of kind of health, wealth, relationships, etc. And it was years ago that I first started thinking about this, because I fell in love with an author called David Gemmell, who was known for being one of the best, while he was alive, he was one of the best heroic fantasy writers there have been. Absolutely incredible. And I remember reading this article where he talks about some of the where his heroes came from. And you notice that a lot of his heroes have a similar archetype. Yes, they're nuanced, but they have a similar archetype. And he talks about how a lot of them were modeled, and his main hero, called Druss the Legend. I mean, if you want a name, you want to be called the Legend. But he was modeled after David Gemmell's stepfather. And he remembers this vividly in this article about how he woke up in a cold sweat after having a nightmare when he was a child. And, you know, he just sees his stepfather off to the side, and he's like, oh, he wakes up in a cold sweat, and he's like, oh my God, there were vampires here, there are vampires here. And, you know, the typical kind of parental response is then, you know, oh, no, there's no such thing as vampires. There's no such thing as vampires. I don't know about you. When I was a kid, none of that worked for me. But instead, David's stepfather took a different tactic. And instead he said, yep, yes, son, there were vampires here, but I chased them away. I won't have any of them, like, in my house. Instantly taking on that role as a protector to David, right? And he remembers that moment so vividly in his childhood, and all of a sudden his stepfather became his hero, and he wanted to model his stepfather's behavior and kind of like follow in his footsteps. And it was like, oh my God, this man is so brilliant. I'm so honored and proud to call him my stepfather. I want to model his activity and stuff like that. So if you look at like that father-son dynamic, is first of all, the father has stepped into that role of protector and said, hey, follow me. We'll be okay. I'll protect you. And then that allowed his behavior to then rub off on David. All right, and I remember reading that and I was like, wow. Imagine having that role model dynamic in so many other forms of life. And that's one of the reasons why I really want to kind of have a think about our heroes this month. Because, if we think about role models, we often think about how we can become a role model, particularly as an adult. We don't think about who we can have as role models. But I think it's incredibly important to actually select and choose and model behaviors of heroes. So it might be worth a think. Have a think about who some of your heroes might be across different aspects of life. Think about their values, and we'll explore more as the month progresses. But for now, adios. See you tomorrow. Bye!